Radiohead, A Moon-Shaped Pool. Hey everyone, getterthegreat here. It's time for an album review. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest studio album by Radiohead, A Moon-Shaped Pool. Radiohead is an English art rock band. They have been at it for nearly 30 years, and this is the follow-up to their last album, The King of Limbs. This record was not really as well received as some of Radiohead's previous material, but personally, I don't really see anything wrong with this LP. It's certainly not their strongest one to date, but there are tracks that even years later I still go back to, such as Bloom, or Give Up the Ghost, or Separator. In the 5 years since that last album, the members of Radiohead have gone on to do various solo projects. Thom Yorke did an album with that band called Atoms for Peace, as well as also releasing that solo LP, Tomorrow's Modern Boxes. And some of that material that came out in that time somewhat had me worried for this next Radiohead album. I was kind of afraid that they were going to keep going in that cold, calculated kind of electronic sound. However, that all changed when they released the first single for this album, called Burn the Witch. And I already did a video for that song, but I will say this song had some very gorgeous string melodies and some very anxiety-ridden, paranoid lyrics from Thom Yorke. The second single that they released, a song called Daydreaming, is a very dreary piano ballad characterized by these piano arpeggios and these washes of ambient noise that come in and out of the track every once in a while. Out of these two singles, in hindsight, Burn the Witch kind of seems like a red herring for this album. There are really no other tracks on this record that continue in that same style. As for the sound of the rest of the album, it tends to follow in a similar fashion to the song Daydreaming. And what I mean by that is the tracks here tend to be softer, spacier, and overall more emotional, which all leads to this album being, dare I say, one of their most accessible and beautiful albums to date. This album sees Radiohead stripping away some of the clutter that characterized that King of Limbs material in favor of a more simple approach. Take, for example, the presence of several prominently acoustic tracks, songs such as The Present Tense. This song has some pretty finger-picked guitar arpeggios. Tom sings one of the most immediate vocal lines on this entire record. And this track has some very prominent Latin influence in the maracas in the background. You also have songs like Desert Island Disc, a song with a repeating guitar lick and some bass drum that serves as the backbone of this song. And you also have the track The Numbers, an acoustic cut that somewhat reminds me of the song Optimistic, but this version is less tense, a little bit more chilled out. I think some of the strings that in this track are spectacular, and I especially love the little flourishes of piano that are sprinkled throughout this track. These flourishes of piano also make an appearance on the track Deck's Dark, which is a very sleek rocker of a song that kind of reminds me of their OK Computer material. On this song, Tom details the imagery of a spacecraft blocking out the sky, which, if you really think about it, lyrically is not that far away from the song Subterranean Homesick Alien, a track from OK Computer as well. Then we have songs like Glass Eyes, which essentially serve the same purpose of a song like Faust Arp off of And Rainbows. It's a very brief track that somewhat serves as an interlude in the middle of the album. This one just happens to be a piano ballad with some very beautiful strings attached to it. My favorite tracks from this album actually tend to be the ones that develop upon that more rhythmic and repetitive nature of songs from the King of Limbs. This song begins with a very buzzy synthetic bass line, and as it progresses, it introduces these very oppressive synthesizers. All of these elements gradually build up to one of my favorite moments on this entire record, where during the climax, Radiohead breaks out into what essentially is a very krautrock inspired jam. You also have the song Indentikit, which I find to be maybe the catchiest track on this record. I really enjoy the vocal melody on this song, as well as the really rhythmic beat, and I can't forget the guitar solo that ends this song, which is very messy but calculated. I actually have very little in the way of complaints on this album. I would say the only track on this album that I'm not head over heels for is probably the song Tinker Tailor. In fact, I do like the very Beatles-ish melodies on this song, as well as some of the jazzy drumming, but for some reason this song feels like Thom Yorke's solo material. This album finishes off with the track True Love Waits, which is a song that's been in the making for nearly 20 years. It finally makes its studio debut here as a piano ballad, and in my opinion, this might be one of the best vocal performances by Thom on this whole record, considering how his voice cracks on some of the vocal lines from this song, just from sheer emotion. I also like the swirling pianos that give this song a more distant feel. Overall, I thought this was a fantastic effort by Radiohead. Them returning to using more organic instrumentation has really made a difference in the band this time around. Many people might hear this record and wish that the band had gone in a more risky or experimental direction, and in some ways, I really can't disagree. However, I think them coming down to earth and making a more thoroughly enjoyable album really wasn't such a bad thing. I'm feeling a 9 out of 10 on this Radiohead album. Did you like this album? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And also, don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed my video, as well as subscribe to my channel to see future material. And I will see you next time.